Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Ohio Court Council virtual field trip. My name is Melissa Bell, and I work for the Ohio Court Council, responsible for membership outreach activities, and I'm also going to be your host today for this virtual field trip. Um, we have a farmer today, farmer producer Nathan Schrader, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Nathan and his farm and the pigs that he has there here in just a couple minutes. But before we do that, I would first like to thank our sponsors for this event. Farm Credit Services of Mid-America, Ohio Soybean, and Cargill are all responsible for bringing this program to your schools for you to be able to visit a hog farm. So with that, the first thing I'd like to do is introduce all of the schools that we have with us today. And I'll be honest, Dan, I guess I didn't mark down which ones haven't checked in. So do we have Mrs. Rubenstein's class from New Albany?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, everybody. How about Mrs. Deschamps' class? Nope. Okay. Mrs. Solomon's class of first graders from North Grafton. Hi. Do we have Mrs. Rosbert's class? Hello. Hi. Hi. And how about Miss Agresti's class? Yeah, there you are. Very good. Good to meet you. And I don't think we have Mrs. Dietz's class. Is that right? Okay. All right. Well, very good. Well, again, thank you so much to everybody for joining. And at this time, I'm happy to introduce our farmer producer who will give you a tour of his hog building. So with that, here is Nathan Schrader.
Good morning, everybody. And like Melissa said, this is my hog barn. And you look at all the pigs running around. They get to drink and eat whatever they want. But a little bit about myself is I have my wife Mariah, and I have a son named Evan. He's 10 years old, and a daughter named Courtney. She's 15. And when they're out of school on the weekends and during the summer when we get baby pigs in, they love to come out and help and get all the pigs situated in the barn when they come to our farm. And there's a picture of all of us and our dog Jake right there too. So any chance they get to come out here when they're not in school, they love to come out and help with the baby pigs. Now, all these pigs that we get, they come from another farm called a mother farm, and that's where they're all birthed and they raised up. They keep them for about 20 days, and they'll be there with their mom, and they'll get all the food and attention that they need at that point. And at that 3 weeks, they're big enough that they come to a barn like this. This is called a nursery. And this barn's made to help take care of these baby pigs when they're 3 weeks old, and I'll keep them for about 6 or 7 weeks. Now, at the end of the 6 or 7 weeks, these guys are almost 60 pounds when they leave this barn, and when I get them, they're about 13 pounds. So in just that few 6 weeks, they grow very fast and very big. Now, when they leave this barn, they'll take a trailer ride. They'll go to a bigger barn yet. It's called a finishing barn, and that's where they grow to get really, really big. And they'll get up to 300 pounds, and that'll take another 4 months or so. So these guys grow really, really fast. So that big silver thing there that we're looking at where all the pigs are at, that's the feeder. And when they first come into our barn, they get these pelleted looking feed. And you might have seen them eating out of my hand earlier, but that's what they look like. And they'll start on that once they get here, and they'll be on that for a few days. And once they eat so much of that, they'll get switched over to it's ground up corn and ground up soybeans. And that's what that looks like. And that's what gets dumped. That's what automatically gets dumped in them feeders. There's a big computer that'll feed these guys every day about 6 times a day, so they never, ever run out of food. And we'll walk over to show the inside of it just to see what it looks like. You start moving around, they get real excited to see who's in their house right now. But that's what the inside of the feeder looks like. So there's plenty and plenty of feed in there for them. and it just comes down in this little trough here, and they'll eat it right up out of there. Now, just over here a little bit is the drinking fountain. So anytime they want to drink, we'll let them get out. Anytime they want to drink, they'll come over to this. They'll push this little button in here, and all kinds of water will come out for them. It goes in that little bowl, and they can drink and all day long, whatever they want.
Hey, Nathan,
Yes.
will you turn the camera around and let us see your face so we know who we're talking to?
Sure. Give me a
I
minute
know
here.
Nathan, but I think all the students would like to see you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm glad you're all here with me, that I get to show you what I get to do every day. And I'll
Very
get back to
good.
the pigs. I bet they're better looking than me. There they are.
Thank you.
So when all these guys and gals come to our barn, one thing I keep remembering, they're just little babies yet, so it's very, very warm in here. So we'll keep this barn at 80 degrees. And we also have, you see them little, some white-looking things with a black cord on it. Those are called a heat lamp. So we will lower them down closer to the ground, and those will come on and off automatically. And that'll keep a spot in the pen that's about 82 degrees, so just a little bit warmer. So if there's a few pigs that are just a little bit cold and they want a little bit hotter, they'll stay underneath that lamp. But there's also room if, hey, I don't want to be so warm, I'll move over away from it so they can cool down just a little bit. The temperature is regulated in this barn by the big computers that control everything. So there's a set temperature, and if it gets too hot in here, there's fans that will exhaust some of the air out of here to cool it down. And if it gets too cold, there's heaters that will automatically turn on. We also got vents in the ceiling that'll bring fresh air in constantly. So these guys, they, like I said, they'll stay about 6 weeks with me or so. And in them 6 weeks, they get to know each other in the pen. There's 25 in each pen, and they become all friends and kind of get to eat and drink and just sleep all day long. It's about what they do. Now, some things that I do when I come to the barn, we'll start early in the morning. And the first thing I do when I get here is I'll take a shower before I come in here. So that way there's no dirt or there's no germs that would be on me that I could ever bring into my barn to get any of my pigs sick. So once I get out of the shower, I got certain barn clothes that always stay in this barn and never leave. So that way nothing from the outside can ever get in here. And I'll get dressed, I'll come in and I'll check all the computers to make sure everything's looking right. And I'll come into each room out in this barn and I'll walk each pen and we'll take a look at every single pig out here just to make sure they're healthy and happy. And if they look like they're getting sick, and we'll move them and we'll put them in their separate pen, so that way they're just kind of by themselves with just a couple buddies in there so they can relax and heal up and get better. We'll walk through to make sure all the feeders are full, all the waters are working great, everybody's healthy and happy. The little pigs will have a mat on the ground that we'll throw some feed on the ground just to give them a little bit extra to help them catch up with their brothers and sisters. And basically just walk through every room and make sure the ventilation feels good and everything just feels very good in the barn. It's very comfortable. Once I'm done walking the rooms, we'll go back into the office, and if I have to move any pigs or if there's anything funny going on, I'll make a note of that. We have some other people that visit this barn too to help me out, and we'll make a note of what's all going on so everybody's on the same page. Along with myself, I have a brother named Kyle and a good friend named Luke. We built this barn together, so all three of us are get in here and we'll take care of all the pigs. We'll visit this barn at least twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, and it takes about 3-4 hours a day to do the chores over here. So it's a lot of work. And one thing you always got to keep in mind, having animals on the farm, it's every day. Whether you don't quite feel good or not, or you're tired and it's raining and snowing, we got to take care of all of our animals. And we try to do our absolute best every day to to give them what they need and to make sure they're happy and comfortable. Because in the end of the day, that's what it's all about, to make sure they're happy and comfortable.
Nathan, can you show us a bigger view of the barn so we might see
Sure.
just how big the whole building is?
Right there's what one of the rooms look like, and there's 4 rooms in this barn. And those are all those lines coming down. Those are all the feed tubes going down to every one of the feeders.
How
And
many?
in this room, there's 1,200 pigs in this room, all split up in their separate little homes. And there's 4 rooms in here, and that's right at 5,000 pigs that we have in this barn. There's a lot of happy, healthy pigs sitting here, and a lot of work every day to take care of them. So when we're done with these pigs, like I said, about 7 weeks, we keep them here at this nursery. And what we'll do is we'll take them out of their little pens or their little homes, and we'll run them. They're in a hallway, and there's a big trailer that backs up to this barn. And we walk them onto the trailer. And when they're all on there, they get to go for a ride to the big finishing barns. And that big finishing barns, there's a few different things in there. Like I said, there's going to be, these pigs get very, very big. And that's what, there's a picture that just come up. That's what a finishing barn looks like. Those barns are made for really big, heavy 300-pound pigs. If you can see on my picture here, we're looking at the floor. The floor is all plastic in these barns. So it's very comfortable for the baby pigs on their feet to lay down on. But when these pigs get bigger, they go onto a concrete floor, and that flooring's made to handle the weight of what these pigs get. So that barn's built a lot heavier duty than what these are. This barn is especially made for baby pigs. And there are about half of them laying down. They like to sleep a lot during the day. After they eat, they'll go lay down and talk to their neighbor for a little bit and just chill out for a while. So after we load them out and the barn's empty and they're all to the finishing barns, we'll go through each one of these rooms and each one of these pens, and we'll take a pressure washer and we'll clean everything. It'll be a spotless room, just like it's a new barn again after we're done cleaning. And then after that, we'll get it ready for the new pigs to come in. We'll get the pelleted feed moved into the pens, and make sure everything's working just right for the new baby pigs coming. And when they show up, then we'll get them into their rooms, and we'll show them where their homes are for a few weeks and get them some good food and water, and they're happy and they play around all day. And when they're done with that, they'll take a nap.
Hey, Nathan, why don't we go through the life cycle of a pig? And I think that Dan has some slides he can put up to show us.
Sure. So that first 21 days, they're in a sow farm, or we like to call it a mother barn. And that's where they're with their mom. And you can see on that picture that heat lamp is on them. So they like to stay really warm there too. And that's the same thing we got here at this nursery. Now, each mom, when they have a litter of pigs, is 12 to 13 pigs per litter. So they'll stay with her for right around that 3 weeks or that 21 days. And then they'll come to a nursery barn like me. Now, when those pigs are born, they're only 2 or 3 pounds. So they're very, very little pigs. And it says 13 to 15 pounds at weaning. What that means is at that 13 or 15 pounds, they reach that point in about 3 weeks. And that's when they'll start taking them from the mother barns, and we'll go into the nursery to get them to grow up big and strong. Now, this picture of a nursery barn, like I said, we keep them, our pigs, we keep right 6 to 7 weeks. They can keep them up there a little bit longer in there until they just get too big for this. Like I said, this barn is especially made with the temperature and ventilation controls for the smaller pigs. So, and here's a fun one. When I said that they get to eat all day long and get to sleep whenever they want, they can eat over a pound, up to 4 pounds of feed per day. and they eat a lot of food, and I think that's why they grow so fast. So when they leave this nursery barn, they'll go to this growing and finishing barn, and they're there for another 16 to 17 weeks, right around 4 months. They'll continue to grow, and they seem to grow very, very fast. But you got to keep in mind, when they get bigger, they're eating almost 10 pounds of feed a day. That's a lot of feed that these guys are eating. And that's a good picture of how small they start off and about how big they get. So they grow very fast in a short amount of time. So these guys, we've had them here in this barn about 4 weeks right now. So they've been, since they were born, they're about 7 weeks old. And they're pretty big for 7 weeks already. And they're weighing probably about 35 pounds, maybe 40 pounds right now. So they're getting real big. And here in about another week and a half to 2 weeks, we'll be loading them up on that big trailer and taking them to one of the finishing barns in the area and getting ready for the next bunch.
All right. How about if we move on to some questions from the group? So we had, I had some questions sent in to me from one of the classrooms. So why don't I just start with those, and then we can move to the individual classrooms if that's okay. So one of the questions was, can you tell your pigs apart? And if so, do they have names?
So most of the pigs that we got in here are just these pink looking pigs, like a normal pig would see. Every once in a while, we'll get a pig that has some like brown coloring on it, and they're kind of neat looking one. But other than that, being able to spot them out, no, I can't. There's a lot of smiling faces in here, and to name them all, guys and gals, I'm getting old. I don't think I could remember all their names. There's a lot of them in here.
One of the questions that they asked was, what is the hardest part of working as a pig farmer, and what's your favorite part?
So probably the hardest part is them days that it's just not feeling the best, or you wanted to go, on vacation with your family, and we got to set things up, and you can't always just get away because you got to be here taking care of the animals. And it's a great help that I got my brother and the other guy involved in it too. So we could get away, but it's hard sometimes. That's the roughest part. The best part is when the baby pigs come in and we get them started. That's the most funnest part that I got when they first show up.
Let's see here. What breeds of pigs do you have?
Dan, did you have a slide that shows all the different breeds of pigs? Let him get that up. And these pigs are actually a mix of a few different ones, but there's all the different ones. We got some Yorkshire, Berkshire, some Chester White in here, but those are the different ones that are there now. So ours is a mix of a few of them.
Let's see here. Why did you choose pigs to live on your farm and not other animals?
We like raising pigs. I can't quite explain it. It's just fun. We enjoy being around the hogs and the little baby pigs. We also have a few steers at home too, and just a couple of chickens, but we really enjoy raising the pigs. It's just fun.
All right, let's open it up. So that was Mrs. Rubenstein's class. They had sent in the questions ahead of time. How about we ask Miss Solomon's class? Do you have any questions you would like to ask?
Nora, what's your question?
How much pigs can you store in that type of barn?
How many pigs do you have in that type of a barn?
So this barn that we're in here, like that room that I showed you earlier, there's 4 rooms in this barn that look like that. And there's 5,000 pigs in this barn altogether. That's a lot of smiling faces every day to look at.
Very good. Do you have another question, Miss Solomon's class?
How do you know which one's a girl and a boy?
Did you hear that question, Nathan? How can you tell the difference between a boy and a girl?
That's a good question. And the boys, they get a little bit bigger. Um, the girls are kind of a longer pig, and that's kind of how you spot them out.
What other questions?
Jocelyn,
How much pigs are on the farm?
Laura already asked that question. Khaleesi,
Um, the pigs are really
yes, honey, we have tails. You can see them in the picture. Go ahead, Misty.
If you have a question, raise your hand. A thinking question, Dominic.
um,
Gotta be ready.
how, um, how, how many times do the pigs eat?
How many times a day do the pigs eat?
Oh, they eat all times. They eat. If they're hungry, they'll walk right over there and eat. And if they lay down and they're hungry again in another half hour, they'll go back and eat again. So it's there all day and all night long for them, so they can get it whenever they want.
All right, let's move on to Miss Rosbert's class. Do you have some questions for us?
Yes, we do. Lily, do you want to ask your question? You don't want to go first? Okay, then.
How old do pigs get?
How
What was
old?
that, Melissa? What was that, Melissa?
I couldn't hear it either. Can you ask that question again for me?
Sure, it was how old do pigs get?
Oh, okay. How old do pigs
Okay.
get?
So we'll keep them in the finishing barn right up to 6-7 months. And that's how old we keep them to get up to 300 pounds. Now, there are wild pigs out in the world. And boy, I think they can get to be pretty old and really, really big. I know some of them can get up to 500-600 pounds. So they can get really old and really big. But these ones, for about 6-7 months, is about how old they'll get.
Another question? I couldn't hear that.
What kind of food do they eat and how much?
So they like to eat ground up corn and ground up soybeans. And that's the corn and soybeans that you see driving around out in the country that are growing in the farmers' fields. So they'll grind them up and they'll put them in a really big bin outside of our big storage container outside of the barn. And then it'll be fed into the barns with all them little tubes and stuff that you've seen before. So there's a picture on the top left is what a corn plant looks like when it's ready to be harvested. And then on the top right is a soybean plant. And right in the middle is a handful of, that's what it looks like when it's ground up. And that's what they eat. And when they get big, they can eat up to 10 pounds of feed per day for each pig. So that's a big pile of ground up corn and soybeans for them.
All right. Do you have any, one more question, Ms. Rosbert?
Go ahead, Lily. Do the pigs ever get vegetables or treats?
So they get, the vegetables are kind of like the corn and the soybeans that they get. That's kind of a treat to them. It tastes very good, and they're really excited to get it. So yes, they get their vegetables, but they think their vegetables are awesome. So that's kind of their treat too.
All right. I'm going to ask a question. Nathan, what happens to all the poo?
That's a good question. So all these pigs go to the bathroom just like we do too. But if you look at this flooring, you see everybody see the little holes in the floor? So underneath this barn is like a really, really deep basement. And that is where all that gets stored. Now, what we do with that every year is we got a big pump that goes down there and pumps that out to some big semi-tankers and a tanker that's behind a tractor. And we use that as organic fertilizer on our fields. So we use that to help grow all the corn and the soybeans that we grow out here.
Very good. All right, Ms. Agreste's class.
Do pigs have allergies?
Do pigs have allergies?
I don't think so. That's a really good question. I'm not sure what the answer is on that one. None of these pigs in here sure seem like they have any kind of allergies. They seem very happy every day.
Another question?
Have you ever kept a pig as a pet, or has anybody in your family ever kept a pig as a pet?
A long time ago when I was real little, we used to have a couple pet pigs at home.
Any other questions?
Nope, that was up from ours.
Okay. Ms. Rubenstein, do you want me to keep asking off your list, or do you want your students to ask?
Since there's a lot of us sitting here, there's 47 kids in here, it's probably easier if you
Okay.
could asking them.
Yep, that sounds good. One of the other questions they wanted to know was, how much water do pigs drink during the day?
So each one of these pigs, let's go by the whole room. Each one of these rooms, when they're about this big right now, they'll drink almost 150 gallon of water a day. So they're drinking a lot of water out here. And we have a couple wells that are outside to help bring all the nice, clean, fresh water to this barn. So when you get to eat all day and get to drink all day, it takes a lot of water to quench your thirst.
How much money can it cost to start up such a big farm?
Money-wise is a really big investment, but probably one of the more important things is to start a big farm like this. It's the investment of your time. It's an investment away from your family. You got to be here all the time with the animals to help take care of them. So the money investment is big, but it almost seems like it's not as big as the investment in time that you have to put into it.
There's still some questions on this on here about keeping the pigs warm and cool, like warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Do you maybe want to just explain that a little bit more, and so that they understand how that works?
Sure. So we're going into spring here, and it's going to be summer real soon. Hopefully, doesn't feel like it now, but it will be. So it's going to get hot outside. So we have I don't know if you can quite see them. You probably can't, but on the wall, there's five big fans. And as it gets warmer in this room, those fans will start turning on, and it'll bring fresh air from the ceiling, and it'll be a lot of air moving through this barn. So when it's hot outside, there's no better place for me to be is come into one of our barns, and with all them fans running, it's very comfortable. Now the same thing when it's in wintertime, when it gets colder out, all them fans shut off. And we have a couple big heaters that are in this room. And if it's cold enough, those heaters will turn on and get that room back up nice and warm to what they like to be.
Do the pigs ever get to go outside? And why are they always all inside?
That's a good question. They get to go outside when they take their trailer rides from barns to barn. The reason we keep them inside is, one of them we just talked about is when it's hot outside and the sun's, really hot. And if you've ever gotten sunburnt, pigs can get sunburnt too. So we keep them inside to keep them away from the, hot weather like that, to keep them comfortable. Or when it's snowing out, they can be inside and not in the snow, and they can be kept comfortable there. And that's the biggest reasons why we keep them in here. We can keep them their food and water. We can keep them safe and healthy and happy inside this barn.
Do you have sows and piglets on your farm, or just these pigs?
We do not have sows and piglets on our farm. We have just these pigs. Our baby pigs come from some good friends that live about an hour away, and they have the sows and the little piglets, and they raise them for us, and we bring them out here to help get them big.
Do you want to talk through this screen?
Sure. The picture on the left, that's a picture of a piglet. And that's when they're in the mother barn. and that's when they're only just a few pounds big, and they'll fit right in the palm of your hand when they're first born. And when they get a little bit bigger, they'll start calling them pigs, and that's about the size that we get. And we'll get close to that 15 pounds when they show up to this barn, and then up to 55, 60 pounds when they leave this nursery barn and go to the finishing barn. Now, when they get to bigger, we like to give them a different name called hogs. Now, because it just fits better when they're big like that. So, and those hogs go to the finishing barn, and that's where they get to be 280, almost 300 pounds.
Okay, classrooms, do you have any more questions for us? Can you walk up to the camera if you do have a question so that you can ask it?
I want to ask a question. Let's get up to the. I can't. See. I was wondering if they're like the piglets. Do they grow up in just to be pigs, and then they grow to the hogs?
Yes, the piglets, they grow up to be the big hogs that you see.
Another question?
Hold on, you gotta wait. Step back just a little, and they'll let us know if they're gonna talk.
Do pigs really have curly tails?
So the pigs that I have, they all have these short little tails that are in this barn. But there's some pigs that got some real long curly tails.
All right, let's take one last question.
How long do the tails grow to be?
What's that?
What was
How
that,
long
Melissa?
what?
How long will their tails grow to be?
Oh, okay.
Oh, I think I've seen some. They get like 6 to 8 inches. They could get to be some really long tails on them.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. It was so good to have so many groups here today to participate in our virtual field trip. As I mentioned in the beginning, I would like to thank our sponsors, Farm Credit Services of Mid-America, the Ohio Soybean Council, and Cargill. And I think it's also important, too, that we thank our farmer, Nathan Schrader, for taking time out of his day today to participate in this activity with us. So, classes, if you'd like to say thank you to Mr. Schrader.
You're welcome. It was good seeing you all this morning. I hope you enjoyed it.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We're glad you were there.